You seem like you have a new spark of life and will to do things after.
Well, we had a
gap.
long layoff.
Yeah.
Too long. And I think the last tour, after Billy and Rick joined Fleetwood Mac,
Things changed.
well, in a way, things did change. I mean, it was what the band needed. We needed to get out there and do what a band does, which is play. And after Christmas, we're going to start another album, and we're not going to wait around for years. And the band is definitely in a forward mode. Sorry.
Well, you mean positive attitude towards that?
Yeah, very. That's where we're at, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that you seem to have a lot of personal problems. I mean, the various band members had various problems, and they all seem to be sort of getting sorted
that's
out.
That's a long, long time. If you're talking about what I think you probably are talking, that was.
Well, I mean, it's a very broad subject.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of all that, it was a long time ago, when we made Rumours, and ever since then it's just we've carried on until Lindsey no longer wanted to be in the band, and it just wasn't the right thing for him to be doing, which was has turned out very, very positive, for him and for us. We're able to carry on and, quite frankly, get back to more of a situation which is more band orientated, to work for Fleetwood Mac versus have too much of singular people, sort of dictating what we do and don't do as a band. There was a little bit too much of that going on. It was fine for a few years, but then it really got to a situation of, hey, look, we haven't done anything for 4 years. What are we really doing? Are you in this band or not? And that's what it really came to with Lindsey Buckingham. It came to forcing the issue to a point where he had to say, I can't do it and I don't want to do it. Because if we'd left it and said, well, all right, we won't go on the road, we won't, he might not have actually left. Yeah. And then we would find ourselves sitting around for another 4 years, not doing anything.
You put him in front of a choice.
Yeah. It was, and it wasn't fair on him, and it certainly wasn't fair on the rest of us in the band. So it was understood, and it's that's how the changes come about, and that's how you go forward.
How important has he been for Fleetwood Mac?
Well, Lindsey, while he was in Fleetwood Mac, was obviously an integral part, an important part of Fleetwood Mac, and that's he worked very hard and put a lot of energy into the band, as we all do, and it's like one of those situations. Fleetwood Mac is gone on, is already continuing to go on. We went out on the road with Billy and Rick and had a very successful tour where, I won't be disrespectful, but quite frankly, I think our audience, were more concerned that Fleetwood Mac was still going as a band than being concerned about losing Lindsey Buckingham. And I have to say that was really how it is. And it's nice to know that. And like I said, we were very well received on the tour, and it especially meant a lot to Billy and Rick that they were accepted readily by the audience. And Billy, we did like one of Lindsey's songs, so it wasn't like going out and having to sing the whole catalogue of Lindsey because it wouldn't have been right to do that. So we did some much older stuff, older stuff from early Fleetwood Mac, which was acceptable to do, and then of course, as soon as we make the next album with Billy's songs and some of Rick's probably.
You've been working together
we've been working together for years.
You know about the zoo?
Well, I read about it. So what you were saying before, I mean, you were sort of quite a touchy, anarchic situation, I would say.
When was
because
it?
Well, you were acting as a manager for a while.
I was for
the
7
band.
years.
and like everybody has solo careers and going on at the same time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. You know,
Yeah.
during, if I'm understanding your question, during that period, you have to understand, up till the Tusk album, we'd either been working in the studio or on the road. We worked very, very hard for about 7, 8 years. You know, it was all Fleetwood Mac, Fleetwood Mac, Fleetwood Mac, for all of us.
Yeah.
And we were on the road for the better part of 1 year with the Tusk album.
Yeah.
Did a world tour and a whole bit. After that, most certainly, Lindsey and Stevie especially wanted to do stuff outside of the band.
Yeah.
And then Christine did her album, and then I also did mine. I went to Africa and made an album
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So that was just a period in time where there was obviously a need to let things just calm down.
Mhm.
It was not a question of breaking the band up. It was never discussed. But it was nice to know at that point that the Fleetwood Mac was able to handle that happening without people going, oh well, if you're going to do that, you leave, you know, because we'd all earned the right to do that, and I certainly understood that, you know, Stevie or Lindsey, both of them especially, sort of pushed to do that, and it was fine. You know, it was totally acceptable. But after lots of years of doing that, it then started to become not acceptable slowly, where you thought, hey, are we really going to be a band, or are we just going to let this thing go on and on and on and on and on and just let it die out without even saying what we're doing? You know, people out there that listen to Fleetwood Mac, are they really going to ever know whether we're going to make another album or not? And that's what was going on. So it did get to a stage where there weren't bad feelings, but there was a need to sort something out, to make a move, because certainly John, the bass player, Christine, myself, we wanted to make another record. You know, and Stevie, she was open to doing it because she was free to do it. And Lindsey had a problem. He was working on his own album, and he, at that point in his mind, he knew he really didn't know what he wanted to do, whether he wanted to be in Fleetwood Mac or not, even that far back. So he was putting it off until at a point where we said, well, we're making an album, do you want to be on it or not? So, and then he decided to do it, and then put a lot of energy, and we made a great album. You know, Tango was a very successful, and I enjoyed the album a lot. But that was it. Then, you know, he left, and we go on to other things. You know.
Obviously, Rumours was the album that got you back on the right track.
Well, got me on a track. You know.
Well, yeah, I know, but before it was like sort of. You know, Rumours was a multi-million.
Yeah, I understand what you're
album,
saying. Yeah. When Stevie and Lindsey joined Fleetwood Mac, it was a noticeable. There was actually one album before Rumours, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Sold nearly 5 million albums in the States.
Yeah.
Which was a lot. I mean, for us, that was when we really knew something.
Especially considering how
we
short
knew
it
something.
took you to record it.
We knew what was happening. That the chemistry was very right and positive, and just we were in the middle of something that we didn't want to think too much to analyze it, but we were aware that this was definitely. For instance, we went out and did some concerts before any album ever came out with Stevie and Lindsey, and they weren't all full, but the people who were there accepted it straight away, and it was a good acid test. You know, it was a good test to do that, because then you started really feeling that this is not just something that's in your brain; it's something that is infecting an audience, and that's without even hearing a record with the new band. And it's strangely enough, it's sort of happened a little bit like that with going out on the road with Billy and Rick during this last tour, and having it be that great. You know, I mean, it really was. It was.
So now you can think of an album with.
And now with a lot of it makes you feel.
Well, it's
pretty good.
It's easier for the crowd to accept them.
Absolutely.
Rather than,
You bet.
Yeah. because a live situation is a much easier situation
Yeah.
to accept
And we've
new
been
people
able to do
because there's the whole
interviews
enjoyment.
and videos.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oops, here comes a new album. It's like they already
Yeah.
feel like they know Billy and Rick,
Uh-huh.
you know, which is, I think, a good thing to do.
So in a way, it's like Rumours was, well, Fleetwood Mac and Rumours were the beginning of a period, and this is Tango in the Night is the end of one, and of that
That's
one is
true.
the beginning of another one.
Yeah, that's true. That's how Fleetwood Mac is, you know.
Yeah, it's like a turtle.
Chapters.
Yeah, various chapters.
Epic.
An epic.
Yeah, an epic.
Stop it.
So, writing material wise, I mean, you were, Lindsey wrote and produced the album and wrote
The last album.
The
yeah,
last
with,
album,
with
the
Richard
album,
Dashett,
yeah.
yes.
Now, what sort of balance are you going to try to find for the new album you say you're going to record soon?
Yeah.
Are the girls going to have control of it, or
No, we all will, and that means all of us. You know, that's really the way we work. It's certainly the way that just on these two songs, they happen to be Stevie and Christine's songs. Billy and Rick, both are writers. Billy's, you know, I know to be a very strong songwriter, and that's going to be a whole new element within, you know, within the making of this album. It's something that's, I won't say it's an unknown, but we already feel good that we know it's going to work. You know, you just feel it, you know it's going to work, and that's what we'll do. We'll just go into it with that. There won't be any real set plans of who does what, and if you're talking about control over, no, it's very much controlled by all of us, you know, and I think we all think in similar ways, and we all know each other pretty darn well, that it's just a very natural thing where you tend to more or less agree pretty much with what is going to be right for the whole situation. You know, so you're choosing songs and the amount of, you know, songs are weighted there, and then, hey, you know, we need some more, you know, vocals here so that it's not just too much of one voice. There's a whole load of options, having 4 songwriters and 4 singers that can work on their own and different combinations. You know, it might be a song with just, you know, Billy and Rick singing on it or something like that. We can do all those things, you know. So it's going to be fun.
Going back to
It's all going to be the element of surprise, really.
yeah,
You know what
definitely. Yeah.
it's going to be.
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
no
that's
master plan.
You never know with an album anyway. You know.
A chapter that didn't go down too well, Tusk. What went wrong?
Nothing went wrong
I mean,
to me. I love that album.
yeah, I like the album too, but it seemed to me like, I don't know, was there too much expectation after Rumours?
No, well, I mean, see,
Because it costed you an awful lot of money to do it, it took ages to do it.
it took about a year, yeah.
What was the problem there?
Well, like I said, there wasn't a problem. That to me is all in my mind is probably going to be the most important album that Fleetwood Mac ever did, because, and I'll explain what I mean by that, is that one, it was a double album. It was a signpost, quite literally, of what was going to happen within Fleetwood Mac. Like I just told you, everyone after Tusk went out and did their own things. Now, if you listen to Tusk, that album is telling you that that's what's going to happen. And the fact that we did a double album was in those days, certainly in the States, there was a big slump in the record business, and it was not an advisable thing to do a double album just for the cost of it, to people to buy it.
Well,
But we knew that
that's the
as a band,
answer I was waiting for.
Yeah,
You know,
but just remember this: that album was a double album in terms of, and it was a very different album from Rumours. And I think it allowed, certainly, probably most of all, Lindsey Buckingham to feel that he could be somewhat free to experiment within Fleetwood Mac, rather than say, hey, I don't want to do that. We, as a band, encompassed that energy to do some rather strange things, which was great. We had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And it was a very important album because it allowed everyone to get more material out, more songs out, so they didn't feel frustrated. It meant this, in a weird way, it sort of meant the survival of Fleetwood Mac,
Yeah.
rather than have a big blow up. Well, I can't do this, I can't do that. Why? I don't want to do this. When basically what was happening, you know, especially Stevie and Lindsey wanted to do solo albums, you know, and if you like, there's a certain element of that in that album, especially with Lindsey. You know, recorded some of the stuff at home and played some drums and stuff like that. All of which just enabled the band to continue, you know, as a unit, as a working unit. So if that's what I feel about that album. Musically, I think there's some great things on it to this day. You know, I think I enjoy listening to that album a lot. And it was by no means a failure at all in terms of you know, sales and stuff. It was a very successful album. I think it sold about 5 million albums, but you start thinking of how much it cost. It's basically like selling 10 million albums.
Yeah.
And that's not what I call a failure. But no, it was not another Rumours, but we didn't want to make another Rumours. You know, we consciously, and again, especially Lindsey, and due credit to him, we wanted to shock people so you wouldn't fall into the trap of just repeating yourself. When you come off something that big, when you have everything, the big expectations. I mean, if we hadn't have done an album like Tusk, that was so different, it shocked people. Went, whoa, what are they doing? You know, and it was very healthy, because if you've made an album, no matter how good it was, that was vaguely a lot, maybe just an extension of what Rumours was, you're really leaving yourself out to being in dangerous creative ground. You know, so that's how that came about. You know, that's not why we did it, but there was certainly some sort of thought as to not wanting to get stale. So from all those angles, that's why, to me, it's a very important album, Fleetwood Mac.
You, lifestyle-wise, are you going in cycles as well, or like ups and downs?
Oh, I'd say, yeah, I've calmed down. I got pretty crazed a few years back. So I don't think I've basically changed as a person. You know, I still feel like Mick, and I don't, unless I'm completely deluded. I'm sure that happens to some extent. You know, I've had some strange times. You know, but I've not been mind-boggling. It's just been something that's come in through the window that you have to handle, and hopefully you handle it with the support and so forth of your friends, but most of all on your own. You know, I think you have to sort things out, otherwise it really doesn't mean too much.
Is it because sometimes it's difficult to handle money?
No, I don't find any problem with that at all. It's just circumstance. You know, it doesn't, money as such doesn't mean the be all and end all. It's lovely to have. I certainly know what it's like not to have it, which is not the situation now, which is great. You live and learn and everything else, but it's I won't get into that, and I don't like blaming other people, but in actual fact a lot of that's, if you ask me particularly about that, was due to some very bad decisions by some other people, put it that way. I'll leave it at that.
Yes, okay. No need to get too much into that.
No, I mean, I don't mind. It's not particularly interesting.
I mean, you think you all learned enough not to fall into the same traps?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I mean,
I think you have to be real stupid to repeat yourself. But I will always, you know, I won't be scared of not doing anything. You know, I'm just not like that. I like I like an element of risk. I like an element of just go and do it, you know, because it stimulates me. That's what I like about it. You know. That's why I like traveling. You know, I enjoy meeting, you know, people. And believe it or not, I enjoy doing this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mind at all. And some people find that to be an intrusion.
Yeah.
I find it to be part and parcel of something which I do, we all do. And it's important to let people know how you feel, because if you don't, they'll probably write something that may not be as correct as you would like, or something like that. So that's why we do it.
Did you manage to keep yourself free from all the barriers that usually big bands have built around themselves by managers and tour managers and record companies and all that?
I think inherently we've, like we were saying, I managed Fleetwood Mac for about 7 years. So we were all very involved in what we do, and even now we all have our own managers now and so forth. We're pretty well aware. Like Billy has been in the business since so big, and his father was. So you're aware of a lot of the workings, and you don't get too. It's not like an overnight event where you get pulled into a trap of believing your own fantasies, you know. It's been pretty, you know, we've had our wild times and had our fun and everything else, but somehow there's always been something that's grounded the situation out.
So you always managed to be,
I think so,
available, not like
no, I
shelter,
hope not.
hidden
You know,
somewhere.
I consider I lead a very normal life in terms of being where I want to be and going where I want to go without feeling that I have to be. Oops. You know. And there's obvious things. I mean, for Christine or Stevie, it's not the same. You know, I mean, to walk. You know, sometimes it's not because of who they are. They've got to be a little bit more aware of being, you know, careful, having someone with them and things like that. So it's just a matter of being sensible.
Well, yeah.
No.
I suppose for them it's more touchy. You know.
Sure, just a little bit.
Scandals,
So
and, you know, people trying to get them to associated with this and that and the other.
Everyone, you know, everyone's different, and everyone in Fleetwood Mac is very different. You know, we all have different ways of doing things, but
they're all basically down to earth, though.
Yeah,
the whole band is.
Have you heard any news from Peter Green?
No, I haven't.
Lately?
No, I haven't. The last time I spoke to him was about 2 years ago. I spoke to him on the phone, very briefly, and it was not a good time. And I'm sure you're aware of. You know, he's not the same as I knew him, and all I can say is he's someone that's very responsible for me sitting here. You know, so that's about it.
You feel you owe him a lot?
I owe him just that I owe him a lot of the ways that I think about music. I owe him that, you know, he started Fleetwood Mac. You know,
because you've been, I mean, probably as far as I know, always very aware, you know, always try to get to him, you know, try to get him involved in projects.
Well, he worked with me on the African project that I did, and I, you know, somewhere along the line, I just, if there's a right moment, it will come naturally. If ever I was to play with Peter again, or if he even wants to play again. Right now, I don't think he's playing, and he's basically just leading his life the way he leads it. You know. It
seems like guitarists have a difficult time in Fleetwood Mac.
They have had. Yeah.
Are you ready for it?
I heard that was one of the questions asked me.
Right?
Are you ready for it? And I just try not to think about it.